I deleted Instagram off my phone for 6 months, and I never would have expected what happened. Let's flash back to 2010 when Instagram launched and quickly became a social phenomenon for millennials who thought they had something important to say. Soon enough, the simple photo sharing platform snowballed into a social media giant, with its addictive features having us scrolling through our timelines late into the night. Now, the mental health crisis of the young generation is also no secret, with experts suggesting that social media could be a large reason to blame. I just want to run down a few of social media's towering achievements real quick. A 300% increase in sexual assault cases related to online presences. 2/3 of Americans have said that social media has negatively affected society. And research has shown that spending more than 3 hours per day on social media can increase anxiety and rates of depression. Way to go, social media. Really going for gold here. So I hope I made my point, which is that social media kinda sucks. That's why one day, 6 months ago, I decided to delete Instagram off of my phone for good. I would be waving goodbye to all my old classmates who post their significant others, the sports clips and highlights, and the questionable humor sites. But what I didn't know was that saying goodbye to those things would allow me to say hello to new surprising things in my life. And that's what today's video is about. The struggles of quitting social media, but also the new richness and positivity it generated in my life. I think you'll be shocked to see the influence deleting Instagram had on me. Suck it, Zuck. So I'm just gonna be upfront here. Deleting social media didn't automatically turn me into an enlightened monk. When I decided I was gonna do this, I refused to be self-righteous about it. I wasn't gonna go around to my friends going, "Oh, I'm so holy, I deleted Instagram." I really can't stand any of that woo-woo BS, so I really wasn't gonna tell anybody. And after I deleted Instagram, it was mostly inconsequential until about a week in. At this time, my college roommate reached out to me and he was like, "Hey dude, I've been sending you all these memes, why haven't you responded?" And that's when I realized the first thing I was gonna miss out on by deleting Instagram was simply communicating with my friends and having good laughs. We personally send each other stupid DMs all the time with jokes from reels and stuff. And I realized that by deleting Instagram, I wouldn't be able to keep up with the trends anymore. I wouldn't be able to share those same jokes with them. To be honest, for the first few weeks, I kind of felt like a boomer around them. Like anytime they brought up a trend I didn't know, I felt so out of place, like an old person. "Sonny, what's that you call humor? Oh, back in my day." But I will say it was amusing in a different way. My friends would act out trends or laugh about certain things, and when I had no idea what they were talking about, it made them look really stupid and absurd. And plus, if I'm being honest here, it's probably a good thing that I don't see some of the stuff my friends send me, because they can be downright disturbing. I will say that some people did confront me about not answering their DMs, so it was a little awkward at first. But eventually, as I explained that I deleted Instagram, they kind of just accepted it and it wasn't really a big deal. It occurred to me that I was missing out on another thing when my brother asked me if I saw the recent news about the Ukraine war. I had no idea what he was talking about, and then it clicked for me that I actually used social media to keep up with current events in the news. The convenience of just scrolling through my timeline and being updated on the world events was suddenly gone. If I wanted to know what was going on, I would actually have to search for it, like go to a real news site. Which means I had to completely trust my brother's word, which is an awful idea. I ended up subscribing to a few news sites to stay updated, but it really wasn't the same. I just didn't have that same motivation to keep myself updated and look for current events. So I suppose I'm a less informed citizen now, but you know, it is what it is. The third thing I kind of realized right away was that I was gonna be more bored. Like anytime I was standing in a line or in a long car ride, I wouldn't have that crutch of just pulling out Instagram and fulfilling my boredom in the moment. But I'd say the worst part was not having Instagram as that crutch to lean on in social awkward situations. Like after I deleted it, I actually was like scrolling through my settings in weather app for real. Like it was that bad because I couldn't just go on Instagram. And let me tell you, it makes it so much worse when people realize that you're actually scrolling through settings or the weather app and not Instagram. And then when they catch you, it just is even more awkward. And it's just a bad situation. I find myself checking Snapchat more and other apps, but it really just wasn't the same. It didn't scratch that same itch. I think there's this kind of romanticized, rosy idea of deleting social media that it can improve your life in so many ways. But I actually found there was a number of things I was missing out on. Like people will demonize social media, but they don't realize that it actually does benefit us in a lot of ways. And I found these three struggles to be the main things I thought I was missing out on after I deleted Instagram. That being said, I did not expect the pure positivity and the good things it would generate in my life. Who knew one simple app could be responsible for so much? All right, so now for the good stuff. The first thing I noticed was that I was spending more quality time with friends. And I'm defining quality here as like face-to-face interactions and doing something fun, not just like sitting in the same room on a phone. So I find that whenever I'm lonely, I used to use Instagram as a way to kind of numb that feeling. Like if I was just alone by myself one night, scrolling through Instagram would kind of make me forget about those feelings. And I did this during summer break where those feelings are kind of increased because I'm not around my college friends as much. So I was struggling with these feelings a lot of being a little manic and a little anxious, especially when I was alone. The problem was that I didn't have Instagram to lean on anymore to kind of make me forget. So I kind of had to grapple with those emotions. And while this was definitely uncomfortable at first, eventually I started to do different things because of those emotions. And most of the time that was actually just reaching out to people, like texting my friends and trying to make more plans because I couldn't lean on Instagram. And surprise, surprise, asking more people to hang out actually led to doing more things with people. And I mean, like, people didn't always say yes. Like, some people thought it odd that I just started reaching out and trying to make a bunch of plans out of the blue. But what I will say is that a lot of those people did say yes, and it led to a lot of like fun summer adventures and spontaneous plans that might have not happened if I decided to just go on Instagram. I realized that there's absolutely no substitute for hanging out with the homies face to face. Even though I faced a lot of rejection for coming up with plans, I actually did do more stuff because I simply invited more people to do things. So yeah, I guess having to deal with those uncomfortable emotions actually spurred me to take positive action in my life. The second one is also kind of obvious, which is that I had less comparison anxiety. So I'm a pretty motivated person, I'm ambitious, and I sometimes have like a chip on my shoulder, but I also completely suck at a lot of things. So Instagram was like crack for that chip on my shoulder. Like anytime I would see anybody with remote success, especially if it's something I wasn't good at, it was like a shark sniffing blood in the water. Like my senses would engage, I'd be like ready to go to war. Like I'd get all upset and jealous about somebody who succeeded and I didn't. And this would lead me into a lot of negative spirals. Like sometimes it would ruin my entire evening if I saw someone do something successful. So simply not having Instagram limited the amount of times this would happen to me. I started focusing more on the people actually in my life and comparing myself to them and comparing myself to my past self, instead of the people that I didn't really care about or people from around the world. So yeah, I would say this was definitely a healthy improvement. The third thing is that I just spent less time on my phone. Like I didn't have as much entertainment, so I had to find other things to do to fill up my time. I found that I started to do more intentional activities. Like I started to structure my weekends like I did when I was a kid. I spent more time reading, more time working out, more time socializing, and just like spending longer durations within those activities. And because most of these activities were actually more constructive than scrolling through Instagram, I found that actual things in my life started to improve and well. Like I made more friends and I had better grades. Plus, let me tell you that getting rid of social media is like an absolute cure for procrastination. Like I can't say I found like a marked improvement in my productivity from deleting Instagram, but I found that I procrastinated less. Like as soon as I got assignments, I would just start on them because I was bored. So yeah, if you find yourself struggling with deadlines, procrastination, just delete Instagram for a day or two and see what happens, because I found that was like the number one thing that supercharged my college life. I will admit that it wasn't completely good because the screen time on my laptop like skyrocketed. Like a large portion of the time I used to spend on Instagram, I just replaced with YouTube. But for some reason I was able to justify it to myself because YouTube isn't that like quick hitting dopamine of Instagram. And I think overall I spent less time on YouTube than I would have on Instagram. So you know, it wasn't completely good, but I would still say net positive. I would say that deleting Instagram was kind of a whim decision for me just to see how things would turn out in my life. But I will say that the effects it had on my life were anything but temporary. Deleting Instagram absolutely had a net positive on my life. Like so many things in my life improved just by focusing more on the concrete things around me. What I will say is I don't think you have to delete Instagram for good to get all the benefits. I think a useful thing to do would just be to delete it from your phone and use your laptop to go to it. Because it can be really useful to stay connected with your friends and stay updated on things. I think it's just the allure of constantly having it with us, like having it on a phone that we can pull out at any time. I think that's where we run into the majority of the negative consequences. You know, my grandma uses her computer for Facebook, so why can't I use my laptop for Instagram? Overall, this experience though made me question things we think we need to do. Like we think that there's these rules that we have to follow, like we have to have social media, we have to do these things. And it made me realize that we can set our own rules for ourselves. Like we're adults now, we don't have to listen to anybody. So yeah, it definitely wasn't life-changing, but I did notice concrete improvements in areas of my life. and I'm glad I did it. If I could go back in time, 99 times out of 100, I would do the same thing. I would experiment and delete Instagram. So while I can't say that I'm an enlightened monk here to bestow my divine wisdom upon you, I do recommend maybe taking a break from Instagram for a week, just seeing how you respond. I think it's useful to experiment with things in our lives, and I've definitely found that this experiment benefited me in so many ways, and I'm so glad and thankful to have had the experience. And that's my story. Thanks for watching, y'all. Hope you got some value out of this. Maybe it made you think a little bit about your relationship with social media, or maybe some experiments you want to try in your own life. If you watch this video and just don't completely change anything, that's also cool too. I still appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to check out some of my other videos, I talk a lot about college, my major, data science, and other things in general. So feel free to check it out. Other than that, have a fantastic day. Peace out.